This lesson is on evaluating algebraic expressions. So let's go ahead and talk about a vocabulary word that we're going to use, and the word is substitution. The word substitute is to use or add in place of something. So this is a vocabulary word that a lot of people misuse because instead of using the word substitute, a lot of times for some reason I hear the word plug in. So we cannot plug in a number. We're substituting because we're adding in place of something. So for example, let's say you're making a nice tomato and cucumber salad, and the ingredients calls for tomatoes, cucumbers, purple onions, bell pepper, parsley, and a dressing that requires lemon juice, olive oil, garlic, and mint leaves. Now, if you do not have something, you can probably substitute it for something else. For example, most people won't have mint leaves in common, so they'll probably substitute it with either a cilantro or some other flavorful leaves. Let's say you don't have purple onions, but you have shallots. You can substitute shallots for purple onions, but you cannot substitute tomatoes and cucumbers because that is the main structure of this salad. So similar to that, we're going to use the word substitute because we're going to take in place of something. So let's go ahead and look at example 1. So example 1 says to find the value of x plus 2 when x is equal to 3. So the structure of this equation is this right here, the x plus 2. So I'm going to go ahead and use this parentheses to be in place of this x right here, because the x has a value, which is this 3 right here. And so we're going to replace that x and substitute it with a 3 instead. And then we're going to go ahead and do the operation, which is then becomes 3 plus 2, and that equals to 5. Okay, now let's look at example 2. Example 2 is RT. Now in algebra, RT means that is R times T, because if you remember, when two letters or when a variable and a coefficient are next to each other, the operation is multiplication. So this is really R times T, when R is the value of 40 and T is the value of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do the structure for the R and T and put parentheses, because if you remember in algebra, the two parentheses, when they're next to each other, the operation is multiplication. So now we're going to go ahead and substitute R with the value of 40, and we're going to substitute the value of T with 3. So this becomes 40 times 3, which equals 120. Now let's look at example 3. So example 3 is 3y minus 7, and the value that they give us for y is equal to 5. So let's go ahead and lay out the structure. So the structure is 3, and again, parentheses means multiplication in this case because it's right next to a number right there. So it's 3 times y minus 7. So now let's go ahead and substitute y with the value of 5. Now let's also introduce the word as order of operation. So order of operation says these are the orders that I need to think about in order to do the problem. So if I have any parentheses, I would do that first. If I don't have that, I would go to the next order, which is exponents. If I don't have that, the next order would be multiplication. The next order is division. The next order is addition. And the final order is subtraction right there. Okay? Now here's also where people are confused. Because people see this parentheses, a lot of times people think that's the first order of operation that they see right here. Again, it is not this parentheses that is the order of operation, because technically this is 3 and then this parentheses signifies times, because there's nothing inside this parentheses that you have to do either multiplication, division, addition, or subtraction to. So because of that, this just becomes these two right here of multiplication. So then it becomes 3 times 5, which is 15. And then I copy my minus 7. So I'm going to go ahead and do 15 minus 7, which is equal to 8 as my answer. Now, last example, example 4. I have as 4 parentheses, x minus y, close parentheses. And the value they give us for x is 6. The value they give us for y is equal to 3. So let's go ahead and substitute the x with 6. We're going to substitute the y with 3 right there. Now again, let's talk about order of operations. Now in this case, order of operations, it says parentheses. This parentheses applies to this right here because inside this parentheses, I have to do some kind of operation right here. Now in this operation is very obvious. I just have to subtract 6 minus the 3. But if there's other operations inside here, I would have to continue on with my order of operations to see what else do I have to do in this case. So let's go ahead and work this out. So then I have a 6 minus 3, which is 3. So then I have is 4 times, and again that parentheses just means it's multiplication now, 4 times 3, which is equal to 12. Okay, so this is the evaluating algebraic expressions.